I did post it. That's good. I appreciate the emails because I
did. I got in the car
I appreciate
the next day to go drive around, popped my earbuds in, and I went, "What the hell?"
I appreciate it, honestly, because I make a lot of promises in class, so sometimes you need to just send me a little email and say, "Remember what you promised?"
It's all right. You put it on there
good.
the same day, so I was okay.
I do read emails most of the time, unless there's too many. All right. Okay, let's talk about doors and windows today. It looks like everybody, well, before we do that, how are all of your models coming? Everybody looks like they're getting stuff going.
Less embarrassing than before.
Less embarrassing than before. Feels a little bit better, right?
Better.
Okay. Your models all look pretty good. Paul.
He's all done.
Paul T. We'll call him Paul T. Right? We'll go back to kindergarten. Paul T. Look at that! He's got a little toilet paper. Okay.
Whoa! I never heard anything about toilet paper.
Okay, well that's good. Any questions so far? Anything that you're running into that's troublesome?
I'm having problems with dimensions.
Okay, what kind of problems?
Both of them actually.
Yeah. Should we'll go over dimensions a little bit? Okay. We'll go over dimensions a little bit. And then we'll talk about doors and windows. Like I said, I'm going to keep it kind of light today because I think you guys have you've gotten a lot of information over the past few weeks. So we'll back it off a little. Sounds good. All right, I am going to open. I was working on a file. Hopefully I can find it. Desk.
On your video though, it says 3 foot for your BO footings for the basement.
Uh-huh.
But on the instructions, you want it to be 24 inches. Which one do you prefer?
So the width is going to be 24 inches.
Okay.
And then the depth will just be, that's a good question, maybe like 10 inches. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I think it was.
Good square footing, 24 by 24.
There you go.
Couldn't figure out why they look so stupid. Took a minute, but I figured it out.
Again, I want you to get it as close as possible, right? But I think that's one thing, the construction knowledge, right, that not all the design students have. And so if you get it, the idea behind it in there, you know, and I can see there's a logical thought process. The dimension might not quite be there, but you've thought about it, right? It's kind of about this thick and it's about maybe this wide, then, well, yeah. Okay. All right. So we have our little house here, and we've got it going. We haven't done floors yet. We'll get there in about 2 weeks, I believe. This week we're going to talk about doors and windows. Actually, it might be Monday that we get to that. Hold on, let me pull up our schedule. I was just looking at it and I can't remember now. What else? Let's see here. Okay. Doors and windows.
No floors.
We might potentially have time to get to floors because we've already kind of talked about how to use dimensions to help you draw. So we'll talk about doors and windows today, dimensions a little bit more. We might be able to get to floors a little bit next time. So let me see how it goes. And then next week we'll start talking about printing. So we'll take a little break from geometry creation and I'll show you how to generate sheets and views and how to print things. And then we'll get back to actually adding more detail to the model. Okay. So let's talk about doors and windows, and we'll start it off with actually dimensions. So what kind of issues were you having with dimensions?
So if you will to dimensions and where it says dimension in,
Uh-huh.
it won't show it.
It won't?
let me change the number.
It won't let you change the number?
No.
The main thing is to click on the wall you want to move,
Yeah.
and then the dimension's editable after that.
That's what I was getting after for not posting the video because I'd seen her do it, but I couldn't remember how to do it. So I was like, I
Okay.
can't post the video like I did.
It goes in between
No,
two
I
walls.
looked it up online.
Yeah,
You
it
just
doesn't-
want to click on
What?
it.
I did that.
Yeah, and you click on one left or
Okay. So here's what Nor's doing. Yeah. Here's what, I just saw what Nor did. Okay.
You just click right on the number.
So DI, dimension, and so here's what she's doing. So first of all, before we even get into that, right, if I'm hovering over the midline, which shows up dashed, I can tab, 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 and it gets to where I need it to go on the wall, right? So I can change where the, where it sort of points on the wall. Tab, click. I click in Nowhere Land, click, and there it is. And Nora's saying, well, I can't change this number. Click, click, right? Because this dimension dialog box pops up, right? And the reason that yours isn't working is because what you need to do in actuality is pick this wall. So you need to pick the element you want to move, and you see how that turns blue? And then I could do like 19 foot, and it moves it out. Yeah. So if you click on it, and we'll talk about this a little bit later too. If you click, oop.
That's all I could remember. That's why I was like, click. What?
Yes, I don't know what's happening, right? You get into this dialog box, and this will allow you to add text or a suffix or a prefix onto your dimension, like if you need to do this or equal or plus or minus or whatever, right? What I like and I don't like about Revit Dimensions, for those of you that have used AutoCAD before, AutoCAD is really great. You can fudge dimensions, right? You pull a dimension, it's a ½ inch off, you click on the text and you type in your own dimension. And you overwrite it, right? Which is, we love that. You can't do that in Revit. You have to cheat it a little bit, right? I can't come in here and click on replace with, 19 foot 1 inch, right? It will say, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that, right? So we've learned ways around it, saying or equal, right? So
That's a sneaky.
whatever, right? But so those of you, right, that read the drawings and build things from them,
I like that.
like, wait a minute, it doesn't actually work out to that. Well, we cheated it a little bit. Did you guys have a question? Did you have a question? No? Okay. So we technically can't do that. But what is nice about this dialog box is I could say something like, what, I don't even know. Let's see, suffix. You could say something, 2 equal spaces or whatever, right? And then you could add that text there if you wanted to. Did that work for you, Nora? Being able?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I am going to delete this. That sounds like it was the problem. Right, let's talk about doors and windows today. Doors and windows are what we call families in Revit, okay? And families are essentially, if you were to compare them to AutoCAD, they are 3D AutoCAD blocks, okay? The difference between an AutoCAD block, though, and a family is that in a family we build in parameters, right? We build in elements that have different relationships with one another so that we can change dimensions or add different settings to them. And when we do that, the whole system somewhat functions together, right? Meaning if I change the width of a door, then the width changes, but the panel, the swinging part of the door actually changes with the width. So not just the frame changes, the panel changes, and it looks right in floor plan view. So we build in parameters which, assign relationships between items in these families, okay? Doors and windows are both families. Doors and windows are both hosted items, which means that I can't click on door and click out here in space, right? It just won't allow me to place doors in space. I have to click and add a door to an element that will host it. And a wall is something that will host other elements, right? Examples of things that will host other elements are floors and roofs and ceilings and things like that, okay? All right, so I'm going to click on door right here. The shortcut is DR, right? Click. And you're going to notice that I have, well, I don't have very many options. DR. Okay, not a whole lot of options. Never mind. I was thinking we had a couple more. You're going to notice I hover Nowhere Land and nothing happens. When I get close to a wall, though, a little preview of the door appears. All right? So if I click, that door places itself on that wall. All right? And very nicely it cuts out an opening and all that good stuff, right? Isn't it nice? I know. And if you want to move it, look, I nudge it. Oh, look how nice and clean it stays. It's magic.
Did you have to click on to highlight that?
To highlight the door,
Yeah.
I just clicked on the door and I nudged it with my arrows back and forth. Yep. Okay, so one thing I want you to notice about the door, though, so when I click on the door, doors and windows and different other components, other families like furniture or dishwashers, appliances, countertops, all those type of things, right? They all have similar properties associated with them that walls do, right? And what I mean by that is if I click on a door or I go to place a door, you're going to notice that I have a level associated with that door, okay? So right now I'm on the main level. So by default, Revit sort of assumes that this door that I place is going to go on the main level unless you tell it otherwise. Okay. I also have a sill height. I don't have a top, or I don't have a base offset anymore. That terminology is saved for walls, base offset. But I have a sill, right, which is a little bit more appropriate. Well, not a lot of door. Well, I guess they do have a sill, but they don't usually have like a tall sill, right, to step over. But you have similar type properties, just kind of that are more appropriate for whatever element you're placing, right? Doors and windows have a sill height instead of a base offset, right? So if I click on that door and I look over here, right, I have a main level. The sill height could be something, you know, instead of 0, let's bump it up 6 inches, 0, 6 inches. Okay, and let me pop into 3D here. We'll take a look at these at the same time. Okay, so there's the base of the wall right there, and my door is sitting 6 inches above the main level floor plate. Okay, I'm going to click on my door again, and maybe I want to give it a 2-foot offset. Okay, so it brings it up 2 feet. Pops it up above the wall. You don't like that, right? I can bring it back down to 0. Okay, I can also, if I wanted to, instead of it being hosted at level 1, right, main level, I could take it down to basement. Oh, it didn't like that in that spot for whatever reason. Interesting. Huh. Well, let me try that again. I'm wondering if maybe because this wall is not directly in line with that wall. Let's try it now. Main level. It doesn't like that. Generally, let me make a little bit of a change that I'm not going to ask you to change, but let me make a little bit of a change. I'm wondering if we've changed because we changed to a foundation wall. It has a little bit of trouble translating it back and forth. But if, for example, I took these walls and I took them all the way up to level 3. There we go. And instead of being at level 2, I grab my door and I can change it to level 2. It goes right up, right? So there's something with that wall type that door is not liking to translate from here down to there, okay? But my point is these doors, you know, they are associated with a level, okay? And it's nice to associate whatever doors are going to be on whatever level you want them associated with that level, right? Meaning I don't want to place a door at level 1 here and then give it a, you know, a sill height of 8'6" because that's going to be on level 2, right? I want to, you know, either associate it with level 1 or level 2, and if there's maybe just a little bit of a height difference, that's great. Doors are the type of family within a project that you can schedule. So we can count how many, right, are in the project, and Revit will create door schedules and window schedules and things for you. And so we want to associate these things with the proper levels so that when they're all counted up, we can make sure, you know, level 1 has 30 doors, level 2 has 50 doors, and the schedule's correct, right? Okay. So not only do doors and windows have a level, right, associated with them, they have a sill height. They have a lot of other things associated with them. We're not hugely going to get into these things right now. We have a head height, which is somewhat of a top constraint, right? So a sill height will take this door and it will bump it up a certain height. The head height does the same thing as the sill height, but just from the top up, right? So I could say if I wanted this to be at 7'6", it bumps it up 6 inches, right? Which is the exact same thing as saying a sill height of 6 inches, right? So, but I don't know. I don't think, anyway. Okay. So we have our doors. Now, if I click on my door, right, we want to make sure it's associated with the right level. If I click on my door, you're going to notice these little grips, which are magic, right? Click, 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 click. Oh, wrong one. Click. Isn't that nice? Be able to change the handedness of your door with just a little click. No mirroring and trimming and moving and stretching and, right, all that good stuff. And if I can also shortcut, right, with my space bar. So it cycles through all these things with my space bar. Those AutoCAD users out there, right, we're getting used to the space bar in AutoCAD is enter, but in Revit it is not. It's this. Okay? All right. Next thing about doors. Okay, if I click on door, DR, I have a lot of different door types I can choose from. So I have single flush, 36 inches by 84 inches tall. If I drop down, I can see that I have a single flush door and a lot of other different dimensions, right? So, you know, when you place your doors, you want to select the right height, the right width, and place your doors. This one doesn't really have a frame built into it, but you're going to notice it has a panel. It has the swing associated with it. In this view, right, we see the trim on the outside, right? So these families have a lot of kind of detail associated with them. And I want to point that out. In addition to the height and the width and all that good stuff. DR door. We have different types of doors. So by default, you know, Revit only has the single flush family loaded. And I'm using the term loaded because we're going to have to load other types of families or door widths or heights or whatever into our project to use them, to make them available to use, right? So if I wanted to add a door and I wanted to add like a French door, but I don't have one in here, right? I go to DR, I hover over wherever I want that French door to be, maybe over here, and I use my properties dialog box and I can't find a French door. I need to load one into the project in order to use it, okay? And this is something you're going to do with all types of families. So furniture and detail components and doors and windows and all that good stuff, okay? So if I can't find the door that I want, while I'm in the door command, I see a load family icon pop up right here. If I hit escape, and I know I need to load a door, but I don't have a door selected, I can come over here to insert, and I have the load family icon under insert. Okay, so I'm going to click on load family, and I'm going to cross my fingers and hope this is where your Revit goes when you browse at home, right? Okay, so that means everything's working. But it will bring you to the Revit library, right? Revit has, this is like the design center in AutoCAD, where we have a bunch of blocks and things associated with AutoCAD and Revit that are built into the program, right? And they're all very nicely organized, right? If I come down here to doors, click, click, right? We've got commercial, hardware, residential, click, click. And I can, oops, click on these and you see I see a little preview over here. I can just use my arrow keys and arrow down. I know, right? Isn't that nice? There we go. We'll pick those fancy doors. They look like they would go in this house, right? So we hit open and it says, hey, there's a bunch of different sizes of these doors. Which ones would you like to pick, right? I know. Well, in my opinion, I like to have all of them, right? But if you don't want all of them, you can kind of click. You can hold shift and click, click, and kind of pick a few that you want, or control and pick a few that you want, right? Or you can click on this first one, you know, mouse all the way down to the last one and hit OK. And it will say, this will take a while. And I'll say, yes, I want them all. Load them in.
That is so cool. Yeah.
Isn't it nice? Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just load the whole family in even if you don't have to say.
If you don't what?
If you don't tell them to.
Oh, yeah.
If you just push OK, it'll load the whole family.
Yeah, some will do that. It just depends on how the family was made and how it inserts.
Right.
Yeah. So now, right, when I'm in my floor plan view, DR door, and I have my single 5-panel vertical wood door, and I have all these different sizes, right? So we'll do like a 36 by 84. Okay, we'll put that as our front door. No, we won't. We'll put it over here. Does the mudroom have a door really going out right there? Huh.
Yeah, it goes from the outside. That's where your stairs are.
How is he gonna get in a mudroom?
Where's the door?
There's a door right here on this right here.
Oh, is it on? Is it on?
There's a pocket door here, so you can slide through.
Oh, okay. Good to know. I was like, where's the real door? Okay. So there's a door right there. So those of you that haven't quite gotten there. It's like
It's a big door.
a space door. It is a big door. There you go. And this door, as opposed to the other door, right, has a little frame, right? Which is kind of nice. So I can come in here and be very free with my doors. It's magic. There we go.
Oh my god.
That one's too big, so we'll just change the size.
It's so much more.
32 is still too big. Let's do 28 by 8. There we go. Or space bar, space bar, space bar. There we go. Click, and we bring in our doors, right? And I can come over here in my 3D view, and I can look at them. Look at that, right? They have their little panels on them. They look wonderful.
Can you display them as open in the 3D view?
No, well, you can if you want to edit and I'll show you this in a second. You can edit the actual family, but it's built to make them look shut. Yeah. All right. Oh, hold on a second. No, well, maybe this one is built so that you can change the angle of it. Let's look. Nope, it's just in floor plan view. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we've added all of our doors. There's pocket doors you can put in there. There's all types of doors. There's, French doors and sliding doors and all that good stuff. If you happen to not be able to find the door that you want, you need to go look for one, right? Which is totally fine. You can go online. There's a good website called Revit City. Revit City is kind of, I compare it to like it's a little hacker website. It used to be tiny. It's a lot bigger now. But if you go to downloads and you join, you can come, oh, look at that. It's an antler lamp sconce. Oh, a coffin. Why would you want a coffin? Oh, maybe you're doing a mortuary. Never mind. There's all project types, right? There is. Revit for everything. What was I here for? Now I forgot what I was here for. Oh, doors. I got too caught up with the coffin, the casket. But you can see there's a lot of doors out there, right? We have these nano walls, which are great, the French doors. The nice thing about this is that it brings up everything with doors, but the bad thing is it brings up everything with doors, right? So this is a Toyota that has 4 doors, so, right? That's great.
Oh, that's great.
Um,
Put a Toyota on that first floor, I'll buy it.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so we have, a lot of options. So there's Revit City. There's also RCAT. RCAT is a pretty good website for finding things. So you go to BIM, and this is organized according to this, CSI specifications. Let's go to specialties. Maybe we can find like toilet and bath and laundry accessories, right? Toilet partitions, dryers, generic. We'll go to generic. Let's see what this is. Oh, it's a little hand dryer. Click on hand dryer, right? Let's see. I don't see. Oh, I don't see a link to download it.
Is that just an OICAD?
These are in Revit. These are BIM. Interior special download.
Oh yeah.
There you go. This one, I don't see how we're downloading it though. I wonder if there's something I have to sign in or. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh, this one is just a DWG. Formats: RFA, Revit Family. Hold on. But I went to BIM, didn't I? BIM. Let's say millwork. Generic. What's that? I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Huh. This is usually a pretty good place to find stuff though, right? RCAT, Revit City. And then there used to be a website called seek.autodesk.com, which used to be a lot more useful for me. I feel like this is the new form. Oh wait. Seek.autodesk. So it's now called BIM Object, and I feel like there's so much stuff in here, and it's really hard to search now. Where before it was a little bit easier. What's that? Yeah, yeah.
From what I've done.
Yeah. And this used to be very useful. It was.
I've gotten some stuff from here and it's been alright, but a lot of it, like I've gotten like fridges where it goes and shows and it looks like it's gonna be this awesome fridge, and then it has like these weird open doors, like shadow things on them. It's like,
Huh.
I don't know. They like the pictures on here look like they're gonna be awesome, but a lot of the time,
Right.
Not.
Not the best. Well, and do you feel like I have to search for a long time to find some to find something really easy. Like I used.
I tried to get like a couch off of here, and it took me forever because I'd find one and it didn't work, and there's 100 of them. So
Yeah. So not a great upgrade, Autodesk, right? This one will probably work now though to make it look easy, but in actuality it's not. Okay, I'm not even logging in, so that just killed it for me right there. The login. Anyway, so there's a couple of good places to find things that you need, right? They're not in the actual Revit library that comes with the Revit software, okay? All right, so we have doors. Let's talk about how we're gonna edit our doors, right? So you may be able to go out onto Revit City and find things, but you may also be able to take things that are already in Revit and alter them for you to use, right? So in this case, if I look at my door panel, you know, it's hosted where I want it to be hosted. If I hit edit type, sound familiar? We do this with walls, right? Edit type. I can come in here and I have the ability to edit its dimensions. So if I needed a door that was an odd size, like maybe it was 5 feet wide and 9 feet tall, right? Big door. And that was not available within all of these door sizes, right? I could hit edit, I could duplicate, and we'll call this 108 by, we'll make it big, 108. It's a gigantic door, right? So I just duplicated it. Now, instead of, you know, with the wall system, you have to go in and edit the wall assembly. You have to add gypsum boards, you have to add studs, you have to, you know, do all those things for its definition. The definition in doors is going to be a width, a height, right? We've got a rough opening showing, rough width, rough height. We have a thickness of the panel, the styles, the top rail, the intermediate rail, and the bottom rail. So we have dimensions that have to do with the door that we can alter. So the width is 9 foot. I hope we don't over constrain this. The height is 9 foot, and we'll say okay. It worked. Who wouldn't want a big giant door like that in their master bedroom, right? What's that? Yeah, there you go. There you go. It's an escape route for the husband, right? Right, so we have our big door, okay? So I can do this with any door, garage doors, swinging doors, pocket doors. If I need to create a brand new door, right, there's no brand new door button. There is, hey, I'm going to choose the door that is closest to the new door that I want to generate. I'm going to duplicate it, rename it, and redefine it, and then use it, right? Just like I do with walls. So if I have this single flush and I want to create an off size, I click on it, I hit edit type, duplicate. I'm just going to call this new door. Hit OK. And now instead of the height being 7 foot, let's make it 9 foot. And let's make the width, instead of 3 foot, let's make it 5 foot, right? Let's make the panel, do we have a panel here? Oh, I don't think we have, yes, thickness. Let's make the panel 5 inches thick.
Wow.
Right? There you go, and there's our door, okay? And if I go to my main level and I look at that door, not only has it changed in width and height, but the thickness of that door panel has changed as well, right? So that's the way we're going to change doors, and that's also the way we're going to change and create new window types and furniture types and a lot of other things, right? They all may have different properties that define them, meaning, you know, doors have a width and a height, walls have a base constraint and a top constraint and an assembly. Windows have a sill and a head height or width and a height. They all may have different properties, but those properties are contained within the family, and the family can be duplicated and edited, okay? Any questions on editing any of those items? Okay. I want to show you one quick thing before we move to Windows, all right? So I said before that these are families, right? And families just, I mean, somewhat similar to a Revit model. They have relationships defined within them. So essentially when you want to create a brand new family, you say, hey, I want to create a brand new door. So you create a Revit family door template. And then you create 3D geometry using extrusions and revolutions and things like that to generate kind of, quote, dumb fundamental geometry within the family that then you assign relationships to, right? So I know, Mirza, you have used probably a lot of that type of 3D stuff. Isn't
This software is kind of like, it's not like AutoCAD 3D. It's improved.
It's improved, yeah, for
It's
sure.
like a cross between, let's say, SolidWorks and AutoCAD, or Inventor and AutoCAD.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. Yep. Absolutely.
But it's the same principle.
Same principle. They all kind of,
Sketch, extrude, blah, blah, blah.
right. Yep. So we model these objects in 3D when we create a family, and then we establish relationships and parameters within the families, right? So for example, the width of the door, we want to create a parameter that says, if I change the width of the panel, then the frame goes with it, right? And if I change the height of the panel, the frame heightens as well. So, you know, and if I change the width or the height, the door opening flexes a little to allow for that to happen, right? So within families, we define all of these relationships, and then when we execute them in the model, hopefully it works, right? So something I'm going to show you now is called the family editor. And we're not going to get into the family editor in this class. We don't have enough time to do it. But I want to show you how these are actually made, okay? So I'm going to double click on this family very fast twice. Click, click. And when I do that, and you may have already done this on accident and think, oh great, where did I go, right? We are now in the family editor. So if you look up here, it says singleflesh.rfa. RFA is a family, right? Revit is an RVT file. RFA is a family file. So if I go into a 3D view here, this is what a generic door family somewhat looks like. They give you a wall that's an enclosure, right? But it's up to you as the modeler, I'm going to shade it so we can see it a little better, to create a revolution, or maybe this is an extrusion. I'm going to hit edit, right, to draw an outline of the trim and extrude it 2 inches, right? And it's up to you as the modeler to draw a panel using extrude to create, you know, a panel that looks like this and to extrude it out, right? That's how you would create these, okay? And then once you have all of the geometry created, right, inside and outside, I'm going to go into a family view. It's up to you to establish relationships, right? So we're going to establish a relationship that says from the center point, this dimension and that dimension are always going to be equal. That's one relationship, right? So if this door is 3 feet, this is always 18 inches, this is always 18 inches, right? But it will flex back and forth depending on a dimension that you input. You know, there's a thickness assigned to the panel. So the thickness assigned is 2 inches, but it will allow you with this is called a parameter, this parameter defined, to flex it. And if the door panel gets thicker, it affects this dimension and that dimension. And those, you know, have a relationship with one another, and those flex to meet the new width, right? The width of the door, right? We can flex it, but it's also dependent upon these two things being equal. We have the trim, right? The trim is going to project out in front of the door 1 inch, right? And we also have a parameter that allows that to flex and be thicker, okay? So if you haven't, I mean, families can get very complicated very quickly, right? You can see here that number one, you have to generate the actual geometry using 3D generation methods. Then you have to establish these relationships with parameters, okay? These reference planes really help you do that. But it's a process, right? These are time consuming. And for me, I very rarely do I ever have to create a new family, honestly. I think the most common family that I create is probably a new annotation family, because all of this stuff now it's out there, it's on the internet, right? The Revit library is really comprehensive, so you know, if I need something, I may get in here and I may change a few things that I don't like or alter them, but in general this stuff is already out there, so I don't have to create a whole lot of new stuff, right? But this is essentially what a family looks like.
It's a lot easier to make a block in AutoCAD.
Totally. Totally, yes. Yep. Okay, so if you ever double click on a family, you get into this editor, right? It is essentially just another file that's open. The RFA is different from the RVT file, okay? So if you make changes to this, the workflow would be you make changes, then you load it into the project and close it. Load it, close it, use it, right? If you don't make any changes, then you could likely just close out, close. Do you want to make changes? No, because I didn't really change anything, right? And we're out of the block editor, okay? So if you ever click double click really fast, you get in here. Just know you're in the family editor and you can close out of it.
How do we start a blank family?
So to start a blank family, you'll go to File, New, Family, and it will say, hey, what kind of family would you like to create? And you essentially have kind of a starting point with these, families. So for example, if I want to do something like casework, wall-based case, well, I want to do like a door, so that, let me find a good one. Door, right there. I hit open. Hey, here's where you're going to create the door, right? They have basically given you a wall, which will serve as an enclosure for the door. They've modeled the trim for you to make it easy to start out, right? But it's up to you to generate the rest of, the geometry. So there's no panel in there, there's no doorknob, there's none of that good stuff, right? But I can come in here and say, okay, well, my panel is going to be in here. I can make an extrusion, and then I can apply the relationships, right? But the general idea is that you have kind of a template formed, right? So in your case, where you're maybe thinking about creating some families for your professional work, right? You might say new family, and maybe you want to make it generic, and so that it will host on a floor, right? It's, what kind of equipment is it? Or it's metal? Is it metal panel? Is that right?
Yeah.
Metal panel. So maybe it's a face-based metal panel family. So you can draw these so that they host to the face of a wall, right? So you'd pick the most appropriate template and then model your geometry in there.
Just import my model.
I think you could. I think you could, like, one piece at a time, right? And just do a bunch of different families and it might work. But to be honest, if you are good at 3D modeling, it would be better if you just model them in Revit. Yeah. Okay, so we have doors. We know how to create a new door, right? We know what a door family consists of now, essentially, right? I want you to know that doors and windows are both families, okay? And the next thing that we're going to start inputting into our Revit models are windows. So if I go to architecture and I go to window, click, we have one window available to us, right? But windows are going to function exactly like doors.
Good window.
What's that?
Good window.
It is a good window, right? I can hover over my wall. You'll notice this is a hosted element again. If I click, 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 click out here in space, it doesn't just drop into space. It's not being allowed to do that, right? But if I hover over an element, click, 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 windows like crazy, right? Look at that. The light, the light. Okay.
Could just put a big window.
We could put one big window, right? But that wouldn't be as interesting. And I think we just needed, here's something that I actually didn't say about doors, but unlike other families and other elements in Revit, you're noticing here that I can go into 3D and I can pop, pop, pop these windows right into 3D as I am in this view.
Ooh,
Right?
big little window for the bathroom.
Gives a nice view in. Right? Gives a nice view in.
That is an interesting.
I feel like it's a good way to keep my neighbors at bay, right? Stay out of my yard. Stay out of my yard, right?
I get a nosy neighbor who lives behind me that I think she's seen more than she should.
That's too funny. I just worry about the hobos in my neighborhood more than anything. All right. So here are all of our windows, okay? If I'm on my main level, right, click, click, main level. Here I am, I click on my window there. Oop, I double click too fast and I was bumped into the family editor, right? I shouldn't be in there. So I'm just gonna close that out. Nope. Okay, but here's my window. I can use the space bar to flip it, which is nice, right? And I also have this little grip where I can flip it, okay? I can nudge it and move it, all those good things. If I click on a window, of course, just like doors, I can associate them with a level, right? So this is associated with the main level. I could also bump it up to level 2. And I bet there's a window above it that I put in there. Oh, no. Level 2 doesn't extend over on this side of the house. so it can't go up that far. But if I do have my window highlighted, I can change the sill height, right? We can make these all something like, 1'6", and there's my 1'6". I can grab all of these. I can click, hold down Control, click, click, being very careful not to pick anything else, right? Click, 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 and I can change these all at the same time. 1'6", enter. Right? They all line up very nicely. I could grab all of these at the same time. If I click on one instance and I right click and I choose select all instances, visible in view, look what happens, right? I can change, these are gonna all go really, really skewampus, right?
Was that shift right click that you did?
I just right clicked.
Just right click.
So I clicked on, let me get rid of these first because they're just gonna cause some problems here, right? I clicked on one element and I right clicked and I chose select all instances visible in the view, and it picked every instance of that exact same window in my view. Okay. No, that's the big swing door. 1 foot 8 inches. Oh, what did I do? It's an escape hatch. Right. Let's see. Select all instance visible in view. Okay. And then we can change the sill height to 2 foot, enter, and they should all line up. Okay. Okay. If I don't have the type of window that I want, of course I can go to Insert, Load Family, and I can go to Windows all the way at the bottom, and I can choose whatever window I want. Oh, look there, we have a winner. There we go. Window is WN. There we go. Let's insert, load family. Go down to Windows again. I'm gonna let's pick an operable one, like that. Open, right? WN window, click, and I can place it. And it's telling me, hey, that's great, but there's a wall right there, right? So Revit is smart enough to let me know that if I insert that window there, then it's it's interfering with the wall. So I'm gonna go back to the main level and look at all my windows. There's my little problem window. Click delete, click delete, click delete. Okay. We'll move that little guy. I'm nudging it down. Boop. Let me click, nudge it down. Okay. Okay, so windows, just like doors, right? I can insert the ones that are in the Revit or the Revit project already. I can go out and search for ones in the Revit library. I could go to Revit City and find a specific window that I liked, and I could bring it in and use that, right? Okay, so a couple other things about doors and windows. I'm going to give you a little vocabulary, okay? Windows and doors have type properties and they have instance properties, okay? So type properties means that if I change an element about a door or a window and I change it per type, it changes every window with that same name, okay? So when I make a type change, I click on the window, I hit edit type, right? And every window with this name, when I change it from 4 feet to 6 foot tall and I hit OK, every window, there's only one right now, but every window with that same name changes. It's a type property, okay? Which is different from an instance property. And there are fewer instance properties and type properties, but a good example of an instance property is when I select this door, I have a swing angle of 90 degrees, right? And I have this specific instance of this door chosen. If I change the swing from 90 to 45, oops, 90 to 45 and hit enter, that one specific door changes its open angle from 90 to 45. And none of the other doors with, that same name changed. So that's what's called an instance parameter, okay? So type parameters will change the entire type. So if there's 400 doors in your project of the same type, you make a change to one, it changes all of them, And then I have instance parameters where if I select one instance of this door and I make a change, right, then it only changes that one instance of that door. And you're probably wondering, well, what defines a type property and an instance property, right? And what defines it is when that actual family is created, you define them. So when you are generating that door family, you say the width is a type parameter, right? And you say, well, this swing angle, that's an instance parameter, right? It's a little checkbox in there. So you can define which ones are going to be type parameters and instance parameters, okay? So I want to make you aware of that. The second thing, so there's two more things actually I want to talk about. The second thing I want to talk about is tagging these doors and numbering them. And the third thing is using dimensions to help you get them in the right spot, okay? So let's do actually dimensions first. I can go to dimensions, DI, and I can tab, click, I can, snap to different spots on different types of windows. Usually it's to the center, right? Sometimes it's to one edge or the other. But in this case, I can grab the center of these windows. Click, and I'm just going to go to the end here. Tab, click, and I'm going to go into nowhere land, click. Right? If I click on my dimension, maybe I want all of these windows to be equal about that wall. Same spacing between every single window, right? If I click on that string of dimensions that I use to define that wall, there's a little equal toggle right here. If I click equal, it makes all of those equally spaced about that wall. Let me delete that as best it can with that giant door in the way, right? Okay. And it lets you know that they are indeed equal. Okay? So let me do that again. I'm going to delete these out. And we'll move a few of them back and forth. We'll move that one over. We'll move this one over that way. We will move that one that way. Okay. DI dimension. Tab, click, 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 tab, tab, click, click, right? Oh, I missed one. Shoot.
Nope, that one's left out.
This little guy's left out. I can drag my dimension over here, but the problem is now, well, there we go. There we go. Okay, so I can grab that, hit equal, and it toggles them. Equal, equal, equal. Isn't that nice?
That's really cool.
It's great. And you can do that with most anything. Doors and windows and even walls, right? If you want walls equally spaced about whatever, you can do that with anything. Okay, let's do it on this side. Let's space some windows. I'm not going to do them equally, but there are going to be certain instances, well, we will do a couple equally. I did kind of an equal option all the way across that wall, but I can also take things and maybe make them midpoint between two objects, right? In AutoCAD we have M2P, we don't have that in Revit, but I do have architecture, DI, dimension, tab, click, click, and I can go between two walls, click, and escape, and click on that, and it goes to the midpoint of those two areas, right? DI, tab, click, click, click. This is going to be a nightmare probably. A massacre, right? There we go. Click, and it equally spaces those about here, right? So
What if you don't want to have a dimension in there? You just want to space it?
you can delete it. So I clicked a dimension, I hit delete, and it says, hey, if you delete these, you are going to leave them open to be edited, unconstrained. You can say okay or unconstrained, right? And it will leave them that way. So this is kind of, with AutoCAD you use M2P to center things, right? In Revit you're going to pull dimensions and you're going to center things using dimensions, okay? You're also going to place things, I'm going to do thin lines, TL, thin lines, to get this back where it should be. I'm going to delete this behind there because it's sort of annoying. TL, thin lines, right? TL, thin lines, okay? I'm also going to use dimensions to get my doors whatever distance I want them off the walls, right? So DI dimension, click, tab, click, and I select the door, and I change this to 6, whoops, oh boy, we made a mess here. 0, 6 inches, right? So whatever dimension you want those held off the wall, you can do that. But you're gonna have to do that using dimensions, right? The other way you could do it is you could MV, move it from here to there, but then you get, oh, well, you don't get an error. I was expecting an error. And then MV back over 0, 6 inches, right? So this is likely going to be the easier route. So DI, click, oop, oop, tab, click, click. And you click on the door. You have to click on the element, 0, 6 inches. And then we can click on the dimension and delete it, right? So this is when I say AutoCAD is fast drafting. I can draft faster in AutoCAD than I can in Revit. This is why, right? Because I can move from M2P. I can get things moving very quickly. When I'm using Revit, I have to use dimensions that I then use to space an element that I then delete, right? Which is, you know, somewhat cumbersome. Okay, makes sense so far? All right, everybody's getting restless. One more thing I promise for tonight and we'll stop. I want to show you that these doors and windows can be tracked, so which means they can be tagged, they can be given a number or a letter designation, right? Doors are going to have a number designation, windows are going to have a letter designation, but let me show you just very quickly how you can tag these items. Okay, I'm going to go to Annotate, and I'm going to come over here to Tag by Category, TG. And this is kind of a blanket tagging command where Revit with this command senses what an object is and puts a tag on it. Okay, this is the kind of stuff that with Revit that you can't compete with AutoCAD. It's much faster in Revit to do this kind of stuff than in AutoCAD by far. Tagging.
You don't even have to switch like, to another category. You can just keep tagging.
Yep.
Oh, here's a door. Here's a window. Here's a wall. Here's
Yep.
a door. Here's a wall.
Yep.
Oh my god.
It's amazing. I'm telling you. Tag by category. I like to undo this leader option right here. Click so I don't get a leader with my tags. But the second I hover over something, spacebar, spacebar, just that right there, huh? Click. And I'm hovering on this side as opposed to, oop, oh, this one doesn't want to. Oh, my window is the other direction. Yep, there we go. TG is the tag by category. Click. Oh, we didn't want it that way. TG. Oh, now it's. Okay, I'm going to change the scale of this from an 1/8 to, let's do a quarter.
Could we change that number?
Yep.
Is that the order you brought them in? Like, you've got 2 1s, a 12, and a
Yeah.
10 now?
Yeah. So it goes by instance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you delete 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and you add 6, it still goes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It doesn't start over at 1. So it's discontinuous. It's kind of odd. But I can come in here and I can say this is, you know, A. Enter. And it changed all instances to A. This will be B. Enter. Yes. And it,
Do you go through and tag them all and then go back and change after you're done?
yeah. Yeah. I know, isn't this nice? This right here, these tagging options is what makes me want to use Revit, honestly. Because I really am very fast at AutoCAD drafting and I love the workflow in AutoCAD, but to coordinate keynotes and window tags and door tags and detail, it's too much in AutoCAD for me now. I cannot coordinate all that anymore. It's too much.
Question for you. On the BIM drawings that are used on tablets and iPads, things like that,
Uh-huh.
they have a hot link you can click on the tag, and it'll take you straight to the page, the details.
Oh, uh-huh. So this one, we don't have a hot tag to take you like to the schedule, but if I drop in something like an elevation, right? There's an elevation of that area, right? And then I take that and I drop it on a sheet. So I grab my elevation and I drag that over to there, right? That tells me that's on A101, right? So if I click on it, it takes me to that. Yeah, so that's a little bit later. But these, if you added a detail to it, you could do the same thing, but we don't have any of those established. All right, now these tags, these are type parameters, right? So if I change A to K and hit enter, it's changing a type parameter. This could affect many elements, and you hit yes, right? All of my A's change to K's. There's no going through your pages with a highlighter, right? And change that one, change that one, change that one, change that one. Make sure you get them all, and hopefully your computer doesn't crash and you have to go back with another color highlighter and re-highlight everything, right? TG tag. Now I go back for my doors. Click, click.
Oh, you can put some nice shape in there too.
I know, isn't that nice? Do you see how it's kind of getting, that's a wall tag, right? So it's sensing what, you know, all of these things are. I can just come through here, tag, tag, tag. It just makes it, this is so nice, right? I could change this from K to P, enter. And it changes all of those to P, right? TG.
Annotation is so much easier in Revit.
I know, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah, it's the kicker. It is magical. You finally understand. Yes. Okay. So this this information, it's built in, right? So now, right, instead of just having my width and my height and my panel, everything, that kind of stuff built in with my window representation, my family here, now I have kind of the added information of a tag associated with it, right? And if I click on my window and I hit edit type, I can see my type mark is down here. So if you wanted to, you could also kind of build that in there, right? You could, from the very beginning, say this is A or B or C or D or whatever. I don't usually tend to do that. I kind of just do it on the fly because I like to have mine numbered very, very nicely in order, right? But you could change it here if you wanted. We could make it, you know, Z, and it changes. Okay. So doors, windows, this is how we're going to tag them. They're associated with floors. We can give them, you know, sill heights, head heights. They have type parameters. They have instance parameters. You can edit all of the parameters for width and height and trim and panel sizing within them, which makes it really nice. And, you know, our ultimate goal in all of this, let me just show you what our ultimate goal is in all of this. Okay, this is, I joke all the time, but it's like very literally true. This is what all of the, this is what all the interns used to do, right? So if we create some schedules in here, and this might take me, let's see, let's do a height, and let's add a width. This might take me a few minutes to set up my schedule, right? But now I can create a door schedule in minutes, right? And it's accurate. So I have door 1, 3, 4, 5, and whatever. Let's change it to door 2, door 3, door 4, door 5.
So those won't follow the mark you made in your plan, right? It's like the K to Z.
Yeah, it changes it.
Oh, your doors are numbered. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So number 2 is right there, but if I change it to number, 222 in the schedule, enter, it changes it to 222 in the plan.
Yeah, I was looking at the windows for the letters.
Yep. We can create a window schedule too, where it does schedule all of the letters. Yep. But this is kind of the ultimate goal of that, all that built-in information coming to use, right? Now we can schedule it. We can add details. We can do a lot of different things with it. This was always such a task, to coordinate it and make sure it was right. Okay, so that is all. I have not.
Jeff, you know what you're saying.
I know. Jeff would kill. No. Yeah, I know. Jeff Plant, he's like the CAD. If there's something above Guru, then he's that, right? You're like, all hail Jeff, the Plant, who knows how to do everything possible in AutoCAD. He's amazing with AutoCAD. Anyway,
Revit's way cooler.
I'm just saying.
It's like being the best grown-up at Guess Who.
Well, we've somewhat taken all the best features that we wanted in AutoCAD and put them in Revit, right? To get this same functionality in AutoCAD, is anybody in customization, right? Is just terrible. I mean, it's a really long process. I mean, you can do some of it, but okay. So I am